and welcome to BTC-TV Scribbler. I'm your host for this evening, or this morning, or even this afternoon, Ben Wuchtenberg, and I'm going to read to you from my novella, The Truth of Who We Are. We're almost finished with this, and my next one is going to be a lot different, really different. But we'll discuss that later. This one's kind of short. I don't really like short ones because it feels like I hardly get anything done. But in the meantime, let's start right now. Here we go. Bijou was dressed in the same red velour suit he was wearing in the morning, his hair still tied back into a ponytail, but he was carrying a walking stick and smelling the carnation pinned to his lapel. He stood as though perched on the sidewalk, with two hands on the walking stick and his legs spread like he was standing at ease, waiting for La Niña to open the door. The club was quiet and looked deserted. The only light coming in through the open door and the smoke-filled windows, dust motes floating in the string of light that danced across the floor. He looked at Martin briefly as he stepped into the club and hit the light switch. "Tell me one more time why we're doing this?" he asked, standing in the middle of the dance floor. "It's for a friend," Martin said, walking to the piano bench and lifting the seat up. He picked up a bundle of sheet music, untied it, and began sorting through it, tossing what he didn't want back into the open bench. "As if you have friends," La Niña laughed, standing behind the bar and pouring himself a liberal glass of red wine. "Are you paying for that?" Bijou asked him. "Since when do I have to pay for a glass of wine?" "Since you're not on a tab." "I've never had to pay before." "You've always had to pay, you just never paid attention," Bijou smiled. "Oh, aren't you the saucy one? Then put a coin in the tip jar," he said. Martin selected the music he wanted to hear the boy play and set it up on the music rack. Then he sat down, adjusted the seat, and started to play Beethoven's Piano Sonata No. 5, The Emperor. He didn't open the sheet music. He started with the allegro, his fingers tickling the keyboards and the music filling the small club with his light touch. He paused, almost as if hesitating, then nodded to himself before he hit the keyboard again. "This is where the band comes in," he said, one hand raised as if he was conducting an invisible stringed section. "The band," La Niña said, sitting at the orchestra and sipping his wine. "The orchestra," he smiled. "It is Beethoven, after all. Why would you think there's no band playing?" "Beethoven. And this is what you're playing tonight?" Bijou said. "This is what the child is going to play when he arrives." "You expect the child to play this?" La Niña said. "I did," Martin replied, looking at him. "You played this when you were a child," Bijou said. "How old were you then?" 10. "You played this when you were 10 years old?" La Niña said, with a note of disbelief. "I did," Martin said, and looked at Bijou through heavy-lidded eyes as he continued to play from memory. Martin was certain Bijou could feel the piano vibrating through the floor, much the same as Beethoven would have felt it. "I was on the stage by the time I was 11, playing for an elite selection of criminals." "Criminals?" La Niña laughed. "Nazis," Bijou said. "Do you mean you really did play for Hitler?" La Niña said. "I thought you were just teasing. Why would I lie about something like that?" Martin opened his eyes and looked at Bijou. "This is where the band steps in again, to great acclaim," he said, and began humming the parts. The strings, soft and unassuming. That's the beauty of Beethoven. He layers his music with beauty, but he always keeps the theme running underneath it somewhere. You can hear it all the way through the music. Sometimes it's just a whisper, and sometimes he screams it out. "How long is it?" Bijou asked. 40 minutes, give or take." "What does that mean, give or take?" La Niña asked. And now the woodwinds come in, playing the same theme. "It's give or take means that everybody plays it differently. Some have it come in at 41 minutes, some at 38. You wouldn't notice the difference, but any conductor worth his salt would, and he'd have to adjust accordingly. He'd have to slow things down or speed them up according to what the pianist wants the piece to sound like. Because at this point, the brass and woodwind instruments come in." "And when does the piano come in again? Seems like an awful long wait," Bijou said, tapping his walking stick on the floor. "How about now?" Martin asked, and hit the keyboard. "And this is Beethoven," La Niña said, with a slow shake of his head. "All this time, I never realized this was what you were playing," he said with a half smile. "You've never paid attention," Martin said. Who is this so-called friend of yours? La Niña asked. A woman. This gets stranger and stranger. A woman. Did you hear that? Martin claims to know someone, and it's a woman no less, La Niña laughed. I, for one, find that hard to believe. That I had a life before you knew me? I had more than a life, little one, Martin laughed. The music drifted through the open door, and La Niña turned to look at the people gathered there. He stood up, walking towards the door, thinking to close it. Please, Martin said, leave it open. La Niña shrugged his shoulder and went back to the bar. Martin, a voice called out, and he looked up, seeing Annaliese and Rudi standing just inside the door. He stopped playing and stood up. Bijou turned to look at her, and then La Niña, who was staring at her as well. Bijou, Martin said awkwardly, this is my friend Annaliese and her son, Rudi. Bijou owns the club, he explained. That's La Niña sitting behind the bar. Enchanté, he said, toasting her. Martin looked at Rudi, who was dressed in a dark suit, his shoes highly polished, wearing a straight, narrow tie. His hair was neatly trimmed and combed, and he remembered how he would have to dress before his recitals. He smiled as he walked up to the boy. He looked over at Annaliese. I haven't seen you since, well, we won't even think of how long ago it's been, he said, reaching out and adjusting his tie. I was 4, the boy said softly. 4? Well, I guess it was, he laughed, and then pulled the tie out of his knot and pulled it out of his collar. You don't need to wear this. Come. Your mother tells me that you play, and she wants me to tell her if you're good enough, he added, leading him to the stage and helping him up. Good enough for what? He pushed the seat in for him and opened the sheet music, giving it to him. Just good enough. Do you sight read, he asked, looking down at him, and the boy nodded. Do you need me to turn the pages for you? I know this one, Rudi said softly. Excellent, Martin replied, jumping down from the stage and setting a chair on the floor. He brought a second one down and offered it to Annaliese, and a third one for Bijou. When Annaliese sat down, he gave her the tie. No chair for me, La Niña asked. You're sitting on a stool. He took his watch out, looked at Rudi, and nodded. Begin. Okay, there you go. I'm sorry I stuttered. No, I hate that when that happens because I think, should I start all over again? But it was only a page and a bit, not even that, half a page before I was done. So there you are. Anyways, this was extremely short, and I do apologize for that. Sometimes I wish I could just, read the whole thing out. It would be so much easier. I'd like that a lot more. Anyways, maybe I can do that with my next one. I'm kind of hoping I can get 15-minute reads instead of 8 to 10. Doesn't seem long enough to me, but people seem to like it. Anyways, that's all there is for today. I don't have anything much more that I can ask. Oh, except to say that I was supposed to tell you I was looking for Jennifer Garner, but apparently she got married a little while ago. So yeah, she's not paying any attention to me, but I got my feelers out. I'm looking for Benedict Cumberbatch next week. I like listening to him read. I read his letters. Hear him reading the letters every once in a while on the Oxford thing or whatever that is, where they have all these celebrities reading out letters. He's amazing. Anyways, that's all we have. I'm going to say goodbye, adieu. Arrivederci. Ciao for now. This is Scribbler, your host, Ben Wustenberg, signing off. Good night.